It was the morning of June 4th, 2010. A gray, quiet Friday in Portland, Oregon. For most, it was just another day. But for 7-year-old Kyron Horman, it was special. It was the day of the school science fair, an event he had been excited about for weeks. That morning, Kyron woke up early. His stepmother, Terry Horman, helped him get dressed. He wore a black CSI t-shirt, blue jeans, and wireframe glasses. A wide smile stretched across his face as he proudly held his science project, a display about the red tree frog. Terry snapped a picture of him standing in front of his project at Skyline Elementary School. It would become the last known photo ever taken of Kyron Horman. The school was buzzing with energy. Parents and students were moving from classroom to classroom, checking out the projects. Teachers greeted families in the hallways. It was the kind of safe, familiar chaos that marks every elementary school event. Terry later told police that after walking through a few classrooms with Kyron, she left him near his homeroom around 8:45 a.m. From there, he vanished. He was marked absent that day. No one noticed until the afternoon, when Kyron's stepmother and father went to pick him up and were told by the school that he hadn't been there since the morning. Imagine that. A child disappears inside a school, during daylight, surrounded by students, parents, teachers, and no one sees anything. The news of Kyron's disappearance spread quickly. The tight-knit Portland community was shocked. It didn't make sense. Skyline Elementary was a small school with fewer than 300 students. It sat on a quiet hill, nestled among trees far from the busy city. Police and volunteers flooded the area within hours. Trails, woods, rivers, even nearby farms were searched meticulously. But no trace of Kyron was found. No screams, no signs of struggle, no witnesses. It was as if he had simply vanished into thin air. And that's when the questions started piling up. Who was the last person to see him? Why didn't anyone at the school realize he was gone until hours later? Where was the security, the cameras, the safety protocols? Parents everywhere were terrified. If a child could disappear in school, in broad daylight, could it happen to anyone's child? And for investigators, the mystery deepened with every hour. Terry Horman's story raised eyebrows. Minor inconsistencies, strange timing, odd behavior, but nothing that could be proven, nothing that could be used to make an arrest. The timeline was fragile, the evidence almost non-existent. The only thing that remained was a haunting photo of a smiling boy, unaware that the day he had been so excited for would be the last anyone would see him. This was no ordinary disappearance. It was the beginning of one of the most baffling missing child cases in American history. And it all started with a morning that seemed just like any other. In the hours following Kyron Horman's disappearance, what began as quiet concern quickly escalated into something far more urgent. By that evening, a full-scale search operation was underway. Police, firefighters, search and rescue teams, and volunteers from across the region converged on the area surrounding Skyline Elementary. The school was placed on lockdown. Classrooms were combed through again and again. Woods, creeks, culverts, and sheds were inspected. Search dogs followed scent trails that led nowhere. Helicopters scanned the dense terrain from above. But with every hour, hope dimmed. There were no footprints, no discarded clothing, no signs of a struggle. Nothing. What made this case so terrifying was the lack of anything. No suspect, no clear timeline, no motive, just absence. By the end of that first weekend, it was clear. This wasn't going to be a quick resolution. The search for Kyron became the largest missing child investigation in Oregon state history. More than 1,300 tips were submitted in just the first 10 days. Over 300 trained searchers combed through nearly 2,000 acres of rugged forest. But still, no trace. The local media followed every development, and soon, the story went national. People across the United States knew Kyron's name, his face, his smile. And behind the scenes, detectives began to take a closer look at the people closest to him. The spotlight turned to Terry Horman, Kyron's stepmother, the last known person to see him. Terry told investigators she had dropped Kyron off at school around 8:45 a.m., then ran errands at 2 different grocery stores, eventually heading home. But surveillance footage from those stores didn't support her timeline. Some of her actions that day were hard to verify, and soon something else surfaced. Something that would shift public opinion in a dramatic way. Investigators revealed that during the weeks before Kyron vanished, Terry had allegedly tried to hire a man to kill her husband, Kyron's father, Kyron Horman. Suddenly, Terry wasn't just a key witness. She was a person of interest. But here's the thing, suspicion isn't the same as evidence. And despite years of investigation, no one has ever been arrested or officially charged in connection with Kyron's disappearance. If you're fascinated by mysteries like this, real stories that demand answers, take a second to subscribe to this channel. It helps more people see these cases, and maybe, just maybe, bring new eyes to the clues that others have missed. Now back to the search. The community refused to give up. Volunteers handed out flyers, held vigils, and raised reward money. Billboards with Kyron's face appeared along highways across the state. And yet, the silence from the investigation only grew louder. Desiree Young, Kieran's biological mother, became an outspoken advocate. She publicly accused Terry of knowing more than she admitted. Tensions between the families reached a breaking point. What once was a united front became a divided one, with allegations and lawsuits further complicating the case. The public was left to wonder, was Terry hiding something? Or was she simply the target of a desperate family's grief? At the heart of it all, one simple, heartbreaking truth remained. A 7-year-old boy had vanished, and every trail, every lead, every hope was slowly fading into the shadows. No confession, no closure, no answers. And yet, even as the case grew cold, one question kept burning. How can someone disappear without a trace, in a place full of people? As weeks turned into months, the search for Kyron Horman shifted from the woods to the world of theories. The raw urgency of helicopters and rescue dogs was slowly replaced by speculation, interviews, and courtroom documents. There was still no sign of Kyron, no clothing, no belongings, no trace. The physical search began to scale down, but behind the scenes, investigators were ramping up a different kind of hunt, one for the truth. And all roads kept leading back to one person, Terry Horman. But they didn't just have suspicion, they had patterns, behavior that didn't match the gravity of the situation. Phone records, gaps in her timeline. Allegations that she had tried to hire someone to kill her husband just months before Kyron vanished. It sounded like something out of a movie. But this was no fiction. The man she allegedly approached for the murder-for-hire plot was her former landscaper, who told police she offered him money to take Kyron Horman's life. She denied everything, but the damage was done. Public perception shifted. Kyron's father, took out a restraining order. He moved out of the family home and filed for divorce. Desiree, Kyron's mother, stood in front of cameras and accused Terry of being directly involved in her son's disappearance. Terry stayed silent. She stopped cooperating with law enforcement. She hired a criminal defense attorney. And despite mounting suspicion, she was never charged. The case had hit a wall. With no body and no hard evidence, prosecutors couldn't take action. And yet, something about it all felt off to nearly everyone watching. At this point, the public became a court of its own. Online forums exploded with theories. Some believed Kyron had been taken by someone within the school. Others were convinced there was a wider cover-up, perhaps even involving more than one person. A few held on to the fading hope that he was still alive, hidden perhaps or sold into trafficking. But that theory, like all the others, lacked one crucial thing: proof. People started questioning the school's actions. Why wasn't attendance reported earlier? Why didn't anyone notice Kyron wasn't in class? There were gaps in the protocol, details that, in hindsight, now felt critical. But the most haunting aspect of the case wasn't a theory. It was the absence, the empty desk, the birthday that passed with no candles to blow out, the Christmases without a stocking for Kyron. Year after year, nothing. And yet, something about this mystery refuses to fade. Maybe it's because of that final photo. Kyron's smile frozen in time, so full of life, so unaware of what was about to happen. Maybe it's because the people involved never truly left the spotlight. Or maybe, just maybe, it's because deep down, we all feel like this story should have an ending. We just haven't reached it yet. More than a decade has passed since Kyron Horman vanished without a trace. June 4th, 2010, still echoes through the lives of those who loved him. Each year, as the anniversary approaches, the same questions return. The same pain, the same silence. But what makes this case different from so many others is that it never truly left the public eye. There were no confessions, no breakthroughs, no dramatic arrests. And yet, people kept watching, kept wondering, kept caring. Kyron's mother, Desiree Young, refused to let the case fade into history. She appeared on news stations and documentaries and on public stages, repeating the same plea. If someone knows something, anything, come forward. Don't let my son be forgotten. Her eyes, once full of tears, slowly hardened into resolve. This wasn't just about grief anymore. It was about justice. On the other side, Terry Horman's life took a strange turn. After the media storm faded, she moved out of state, changed her name multiple times, and continued to deny any involvement in Kyron's disappearance. But she could never fully escape the shadow of suspicion. Everywhere she went, the past followed. Detectives quietly continued working the case behind closed doors. Tips still come in. New technologies are being applied, but the truth remains just out of reach. In 2020, 10 years after Kyron went missing, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office reaffirmed, "This case is still active. We have not forgotten, and we never will." There's something haunting about that promise, because the world has moved on in so many ways. Social media trends, viral stories, and other tragedies have stolen the spotlight. But still, Kyron's name lingers. Why? Maybe it's because deep down, this story feels unfinished. The science fair project left abandoned. The classroom seat forever empty. The life that should have unfolded, frozen at age 7. And maybe that's what makes this case so powerful. It's not just about what happened, it's about what didn't. No answers, no peace, no end. But as long as people continue to share Kyron's story, continue to say his name, There's a chance that someone, somewhere, will remember something. Something that didn't seem important at the time. Something they were afraid to say. Something that could change everything. So ask yourself, what if you're the one holding a missing piece of this puzzle? What if your comment, your share, your voice could push this story forward? Kyron would be 22 years old today. He might be in college. He might be working. He might be anywhere. Or he might still be waiting to be found. We may never know exactly what happened on that quiet June morning, but one thing is certain. Kyron Horman has not been forgotten. Not by his family, not by his community, and not by those of us still listening, still watching, still asking questions, because the moment we stop asking is the moment the mystery wins.